Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 17 of Soar and Pair, where we are soaring together to explore new adventures while inspiring others to create their own. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about mistakes of the past relationships and how to avoid them moving forward in current relationships.
What? We're talking about this?
Yeah, get ready.
OMG. Well, we're called Why Not Together, so why not talk about mistakes together?
Why not? Right?
I mean,
How do we avoid these together?
how are we going to throw ourselves on the sword today together?
Yeah, the sword of stupidity is what I call it.
Speak for yourself there, ma'am.
Hey, just saying. But Jim, tell us about, first let's get into our weekly update. Tell us about your music.
What music? I'm kidding. Music. So on my YouTube channel, I did post this week a performance of the Schubert Impromptu, which is the really fast moving one, and the way I set the camera on the piano, you can watch my fingers
I love that.
close up.
Yeah.
So
Well, you get the reflection too. So.
yeah. So it's I hadn't posted that yet on YouTube, although I had performed it at the concert, and so I thought it was time to post that. But upcoming this week, I think I mentioned last week in our episode that I did write a new song over
Where is it?
4th of July weekend. It's all in here in my head as I point to my head and in my fingers. So I'm working on refining the performance of it, and my plan is to actually premiere it on YouTube this coming week, so be watching for it.
Yeah.
Again, it is called Rise and Shine.
Yeah.
So
I'll prod him along.
during the busyness of everything else, I'm
Yeah.
excited to share this with everybody. I think it's going to be a fun song to share, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. And please feel free to share it with others, either on Facebook and or YouTube channel.
Awesome.
Jim Swartzen. So also last night we went to our daughter's house.
We
new
did.
House.
Yes, it was fun. It was
Yeah,
fun.
they just bought a house.
Mhm.
Got the keys Wednesday.
Wednesday they moved in, and yeah, they're still sorting through boxes and stuff, but we finally got to go see it, and I'm super excited for them. It's a beautiful home. It's perfect for starting out, and they have room to grow, so it's excellent.
Right, it's in a little place called Surprise, Arizona. Surprise.
Surprise, we bought a house.
Surprise. Our kids are buying their own house. This is interesting. But so while we were over there last night, and Shay, our daughter, made dinner, we had the opportunity to help out a couple friends of theirs, friends of ours.
Yeah,
I don't think they
Katie
mind
and
us.
Austin, I'm sure they wouldn't mind. No.
Not at all. So why don't you describe this? Has more to do with your lane.
Oh, it's both of us.
That's
but,
true.
Yeah, Katie and Austin have both had, aches and pains and muscle strains and pulls, and so they were asking for some help. And they've never tried the energy healing, polarity and craniosacral work that I do, or the Reiki that Jim and I both do. And so they were asking for help. And so I worked on Katie, and then she felt great, and so she was like, please work on Austin. So we double teamed on Austin, and they were both, I think Austin was more amazed than Katie. He was more skeptical. But today they texted me and said, they were still just amazed at how much better they felt, and that Austin got his range of motion back in his neck. He couldn't move his neck past a certain point. And
it's great. And then
it's beautiful.
Yeah, he was pretty amazed during and afterwards. And then the dog Alice has been really skittish and
poor Alice.
and
Yeah.
nervous with the move and everything else. And they also have a little cat that I don't think Alice gets along with at all. So Alice has been very nervous and uncomfortable. She's usually really a calm dog.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she's, as dogs do with the move and change. She's just feeling it, and she's been throwing up every day and just really looking like she's afraid of her own shadow. It's just not really her style.
right. And so after we had done the work on Austin, I just kind of felt like it was time to just do the Reiki energy on Alice.
Yeah.
And I didn't time it. It must have been about 20 minutes.
At least.
But it was
It was quite a
interesting. Yeah, it was. She just sort of relaxed into it. She actually laid over on her belly, and then Shay came and sat down, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I can feel it into my legs," because Alice was against her. And after I had finished, Alice just seemed relaxed and calm, like herself, which our daughter said she hadn't seen her in a long time. So
We need to continue. I think Alice is probably going to need more. But you made a huge difference for her.
well, energy works on animals and people.
Yes. In my class, we have people who work on horses and dogs and cats, but mainly dogs. And they make a business out of it. It's huge.
Right.
It's really great.
Animals pick up, I think, the stress that their owners have, and when there's moves, and
Completely.
and so because they're so connected to their family, or who they live with, I a lot of times I don't think people realize how much they're affected emotionally, energetically.
What they're carrying. Right.
So it was amazing to see the transformation. So it was a great night.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. It was a lot of fun, and to be there in their new home was wonderful.
Yes, it was. And we got the boost from giving the energy work. We benefit from it too. So
Yeah, that's true. I come home after in Phoenix. It was about 1:14 or 1:15 yesterday, and I'd been driving all over the place and so hot, and I was exhausted when I got there. And after doing that energy work, I felt re-energized.
Yeah, you needed that because it's quite the drive home. They live a good 30-40 minutes away from us, so yeah.
It was good. So more to come on that, but it was a great experience.
It was.
To do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
last week, it was kind of a tough week for me.
yes.
I wanted to be totally open and honest about the 10th anniversary of the passing of Jimmy, my son. And if you didn't see that, feel free to watch it. I think I'm not going to rehash that today, but it was tough in one aspect, and in another aspect, it felt good to talk about it.
You seemed lighter after you talked about it. How are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm feeling much better. It just, I think sometimes things build up like a pressure cooker, and you need to release them.
Yes.
Sometimes it takes weeks or months, but it was just a time where I needed to release.
Yes.
And was able to do it with my friends here in the podcast and YouTube, and of course with you. And it felt good to talk about and really celebrate who he is, not mourn about that. So I think I thank you for asking. I'm feeling better, and just a lot of times you just take it day by day.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, good. You seem better. You seem lighter this week.
Right. Except for my middle. That I'm working on. I'm getting a little thicker around the middle because she keeps cooking such delicious meals. The other night you just killed me. Here I am, like I'm hungry, and she decides to take those delicious Pillsbury, triangles and put
Crescent rolls.
Yeah, crescent rolls, ham and cheese and turkey and pesto.
Yeah.
And that was really, really good. with the veggie, and then we're not done then. So I'm wolfing those down, and then she goes, "Oh, I think I'm gonna make oatmeal chocolate chip cookies."
I had a craving. I'm not trying to fatten you up, I swear.
Well, she's doing a good job of it. However, it's on me to get up and move more and try to lose some.
Well,
of
I
this.
have a Facebook friend who's teasing me with some really good recipes she's trying out, so I'm gonna have to try it.
Yeah. So.
Sorry.
You could try to keep the calories down. No, but talking about the past and what we reminisced last week, that kind of segues into our topic,
Yeah,
which is learning from the mistakes of past relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And
as long as we make all those mistakes somewhere else.
I hate to tell you this, I'm still making them, but not as well. I hope. I mean, my opinion is it's not as bad as it used to be, but Sandy and I were talking about it, and we really thought, why not sort of open up and talk about some of the struggles we had, and how those have shaped us to be who we are now, and then how we're working through it together, because it's not a smooth run.
I'm actually kind of, before we even get into all that, I'm grateful for a lot of the mistakes that I made and that I was a part of. I think I learned a lot, and I'm glad that I learned some of those before we got together.
I think there is an advantage to getting together later on in life.
There really is.
When you're not so young. And
make your mistakes somewhere else so that you can enjoy the rest of your life.
Not to say
that's my advice.
Yeah, not to say that there's still mistakes happening.
Well, the big ones, you know what I mean.
Like potentially airing this episode, that may be a huge mistake.
Could be.
But
live dangerous.
Yeah, we are living dangerous. So, and one of the things that we want to be in Soar and Pair and Why Not Together is very transparent and honest.
Right.
And really, we by no means got it figured out, but we're working at it.
Of course.
And so in my previous relationship,
Dun, 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 dun.
let me start out by saying there's an old Red Skelton joke that my dad used to tell all the time, and it perfectly describes my 25-year relationship. And those of you who are maybe older will know this joke. The younger folks may not. So in any relationship, Mr. Skelton says there are 3 rings. There's the engagement ring, there's the wedding ring, and finally there is the suffering. Mic drop, dude. I'm done.
Okay.
No.
Have a good week. Yeah.
That's all, folks. So I really, struggled in a very, very tough relationship. There's no doubt. And not that I'm looking to throw this past person under the bus, but I do want to talk about what I allowed. You want to? She's raising her hand.
I'll do it.
She says, "I'll be glad to." But I think when you're looking at past relationships, it's so easy to go, it was them. And what I really want to do in this is what I allowed. And like you've said before, teaching people how to treat you.
Yeah. Exactly. It's never completely, even with her, it's never one person.
Right.
It's also, it takes 2 to tango, and it's very much part of what you allow, for sure.
Exactly. And so for 25 years, I tangoed quite a bit. I mean, but in looking back on some of these mistakes, and I did want to get specific. So one of the things I allowed to happen was a lot of control.
Okay.
There was an extreme amount of control that happened in terms of controlling where I go, who I socialize with, what I look at. Just a couple examples. She was extremely jealous, and so if a commercial came on the TV and there were women in bikinis, I would have to look away. If I did not look away, I was
blowing. Yeah.
I was in trouble. I was, gawking at them. Or if a pretty girl came into the room, like you, and I talked to them normal, then I would be flirting with them. So, you know, when someone is extremely jealous and controlling, they don't allow you to relax and be yourself. But
Can't do anything.
no, so I allowed that, and I always felt like I was on the verge of being in trouble. And
that explains a lot, doesn't it?
yeah, and so it's one of the things that I realized after, you know, looking back on it, that in order for, I could be myself a lot of times if she wasn't around. I could relax and let my guard down and be myself.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I realized is I, you know, never wanted to either have a friend or a partner that wouldn't allow me to truly relax and be myself.
Right.
That was extremely important to me when I look back at that.
Those are things that you would think are just a no-brainer, that's almost obvious to people, but I think this happens to more people than we realize.
Right.
It's a very common problem.
Right, and you know, some of it's almost bordering on embarrassment for me, but I look back on it and I'm being, you know, open and honest about it because, you know, if I can help at least one person realize that, you know, if you think you're going to change that other person and yet you're allowing them to control you,
right,
then you're in a very dysfunctional, and I was in a very dysfunctional codependent relationship. And it was in a small town between Phoenix and Tucson, and a lot of people after the divorce, they go, we were wondering how long it was going to take you. It seems
25
like
years later.
Everybody sees it but you.
Yeah.
You know, everybody sees it. In fact, I remember a piano tuning customer telling me this story. So I was on a Saturday. This tuning customer probably lived 3 or 4 blocks from me. I was in the middle of a job. I got a call from my ex, and she said, you know, come home right now. And I told the customer, I'm sorry, I know I'm in the middle of this job, but I've got an emergency at home. And this friend asked, well, what's going on? Well, glass had been broken, and I had to be the one to go clean it up. And
seriously,
I forgot this story, and when about a year or year and a half ago, when I went back to her house, and she says, do you remember the time? And I'm like, honestly, I don't. She told me the story, and I thought, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, the level of fear and control that I allowed this individual to have on me was something that she remembered 2 decades later. I had forgotten.
Having a leash attached to you.
Right.
Yanking that leash back.
Right. And so it was, and is it was a tough lesson to learn, but I finally got to the point where, you know, I was done allowing somebody to yank my chain again and again and again.
Yeah. How does it feel to look back on that now? I mean, I guess you said it's kind of embarrassing. How does...
Well, to admit this on YouTube and podcast, I guess I'm not as embarrassed as I
Right.
used to be.
Right.
How does it feel now? I used to beat myself up about it. I used to get really, really angry. In fact, I remembered when I decided I'm done, I thought to myself, how could I be so stupid?
Yeah.
How could I allow this person to pull the wool over my eyes? But it went from that to, you know, I'm human. Obviously there was love there. There was love there. Otherwise, I, wouldn't have tried as hard as I did. So I went from beating myself up to learning from it, to, hopefully sharing it. And you and I have talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you talk about some of your challenges here in a bit. But, it really was, a journey even getting over that, because it's been, over 9 years since that relationship was over. Really 10 years ago was when I decided that it was done. Another thing, and just remembering, not to belabor, but just a couple other examples, to argue with a person that refuses to see your point of view. It's like reasoning with crazy.
Yeah.
How the heck? it almost became this challenge, like, I'm going to get her to see my point of view. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then I thought I had it. And then right at the very end, she'd say, yes, but. Yes, but. What I originally said is the truth. And I would just remember just getting so frustrated and, you know, sweating and turning beet red and just, you know, trying to force somebody who absolutely cannot see outside of their own self.
Yeah.
You know, who's so narcissistic that they don't even see it.
Right.
That they're so blind to the
So
fact.
unwilling to see another point of view or even another possibility.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, because you're never going to change anyone's mind necessarily. I don't really feel like that is the goal.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Whenever we go into it trying to change somebody else's point of view, you're kind of setting yourself up anyway.
Right. And then one other thing I wanted to mention, then I'm gonna toss it over to you, because this is just such a wonderful subject to talk about. Again, of the three rings, the suffering. But you know, I've gotten to the point where I'm grateful that I grew up and learned some of these lessons. So all the joking aside, maybe I shouldn't have taken so long, but I can't even say that anymore.
You
It
can't
was
say that.
it was
Yeah.
what it was. And you know, there was an occasional good times, but you know,
Of course.
for the most part, I was not myself. And one other thing that really drove me crazy was the I want you by my side, never want to be away from you kind of thing, almost like
Yeah.
the joined at the hip thing all the time, and not allowing, I think, alone time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so that very, you know, you complete me where you begin, I end, and vice versa. That's what love is. Really took me out of, you know, my own expression of being myself. I just became an appendage,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and a shadow of myself, and I wasn't happy. And, you know, towards the end, I'd say towards the last 10 years or so, I really started carving out more time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I really had the footing, the emotional footing, to stand up and go, wait, this just doesn't feel good, and I don't want to spend the rest of my life dealing with this person, even though there were still younger children in the home that had grown up.
No, I think at some point you have to weigh out the damage that can be done from leaving versus staying. Sometimes staying, it can cause more damage than taking that leap.
And when I did leave, you know, she fell apart, as some of you heard in the past, and, you know, became homeless, dysfunctional, hooked on drugs, and, you know, eventually killed herself. So I can't and I will not be responsible for that, because
Good for you.
you know, that is on her. It makes me sad for her and for my daughters who,
course.
you know, who had to deal with that. But again, she was not my responsibility to take care of for the rest of my life at the sacrifice of my own self.
Well, exactly. You're looking for a partner, not somebody that you have to lead through life.
Right.
Yeah, good for you. I'm glad that you're not owning that, because it's not yours to own.
Right. It is a sad situation, but
Of course.
it's not, you know, I left with as much integrity as I could, and just allowed things to play out the way they needed to play out.
Mm-hmm.
But let me shift it over to you. It's time for you to talk about a few things that are comfortable, but what are some things, past relationship mistakes that you want to highlight or describe?
For me, I have two large relationships that I'm kind of lumping into one. One would be control. The control is a big issue for me. Feeling like I'm on a chessboard, and the constant trying to, this person in particular used to try to plan 3 or 4 moves ahead, and I could see it. Would try to plan 3 or 4 moves ahead to manipulate and control me into how I would act, trying to convince me it was my idea. it sounds crazy, I know. But that just got to be too much because I felt like I was never able also to be myself.
Right, because when you feel manipulated,
Yes.
somebody is forcing you,
Their idea.
their idea on you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being manipulated into acting or being a certain way instead of allowing to relax and be myself. Yeah, that's a big one for me.
Right.
And also jealousy. The jealousy thing, here we go again. That's a big thing. You know, jealousy, which for me in a certain relationship led to mental and physical abuse for a while. And I did get out of that, but it left its mark.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It leaves a deep mark. And it's something that still, I see it on TV and it's like, you get PTSD about it.
Right.
So.
And how do you, you know, and yours is, you know, I think both of our relationships were bordering on abuse in different ways.
In many different ways, yeah.
And how do you cope with that, looking back at that now?
Also, I think the stages of grief, like we talked about last week, apply.
Mm-hmm.
Because you lose self-respect and you feel stupid and you're like, why did I do this? You know, you always say, and I was one of them, I admit. I was one of those people who always said I would never put up with XYZ. I don't know how women can put up with that crap.
Right.
And I did. So it chips away at your self-esteem and it chips away at your confidence.
Right.
So it takes time to get that back. Now I feel good. Now I feel great about it because I can look back with forgiveness and strength, because I can look back knowing that I grew from it, you know, and I didn't let it take me down.
One other thing you mentioned to me was competitiveness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the competition. Yeah, there were many times that I would dive into something and this person would tell me, oh, you can't do that, that's mine. You can't do that, that's mine. I'm like, oh, yes, I can. You know, I don't want to compete with anyone.
Right.
Specifically not my partner.
Well, and there's a big difference between competing and collaborating, or competing and allowing, supporting and having space to do something that you want to do. You know, if you want to have a long talk with your dad, then
that was a big one.
You know,
yeah,
I'm not hovering, going, "Hey, you off yet?"
Yeah, why are you talking to him? It's not natural.
Because I think, you know,
I heard that more than once.
Right.
It's not natural to talk to your dad. What?
Well, we all are selfish by nature, so I don't want to say, you know, they're narcissistic. I think we all are. And so I think when you're stuck in that, it's almost like anytime you're taken away from me, being this narcissistic person, anytime you're taken away from me is not right.
Yeah.
You know, because in my situation, anything I did outside of an approved activity was looked down upon.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was very good or healthy.
I gotta tell you something.
Uh-oh. Here it comes.
This relationship that you had, my ex used to tell me that he wanted the relationship you and her and she had.
Which was ironic.
What? I know. And I just was like, I don't. Thank you, but no.
Well, and I'm just going to say it. I know we're trying to stay anonymous, but they were brother and sister.
They were brother and sister.
So, as some of you know, we were married to brother and sister ex, which made us former brother and sister-in-law.
Yeah.
Although very estranged. Interesting, because I couldn't have disagreed more even during that time. Like, I need alone time.
Yes.
You know, I love you, but I like my alone time still.
Me too.
You know, I
very
need
much
time at the piano, just driving on my own. You know, there is times where, and so learning from past mistakes, which is really what this is about, and I think what we're getting to is, so we tolerated a lot for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm. Well, we didn't have the strength to speak out more of what we want or demand it.
Right.
You know.
And so when we stumbled on each other in a very unexpected way, and despite the roles that we had and everything else, we realized that this is, at least from my point of view, that although we're not following convention and, you know, following all the proper steps, I just had a feeling that you would help me heal from a lot of these issues.
And vice versa.
Right, with your friendship, with just listening, and also a very similar experience from siblings that we were married to.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could, and I've said this before, but I don't think anyone could understand us the way we do if we were with a different partner.
Right.
You know, because it's unique.
Right. And part of this discussion, I think, is how do you avoid grabbing those past mistakes and dragging them into your current relationship?
That's a risk. It's a risk for all of us because, I mean, it becomes a habit, right?
And when we were first together, I think you and I called each other out many, many times when we started to project something onto the other person that used to happen.
Like, wait a minute, I'm Sandy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And part of it was just habit.
Of course.
Of thinking a certain way. You know, this sounds strange, but the first time I watched a naked scene of a movie with you, I was sort of a little, I'm like, oh my gosh, should I look away? Should I not?
Jim, just sit down. It's okay. I'm not going to freak out.
Right. Yeah. And I think we had an agreement that, you know, that's going to happen as long as we're not disrespectful to each other.
Right.
You know, it's fine. And that really was the first time I could just sort of relax my shoulders and go, okay, you know, it's fine if something comes up and, you know, I don't have to look away. I know that sounds funny, but when you did that, when somebody did that for 20 years,
yeah,
you know, that was so, you had to sort of coax me out of that, you know, that mentally abusive space to relax and be okay with that.
Well, and allow you to just be yourself and to be a man. Right. You know, to be a healthy man that's going to look around. You know, as long as you don't order off the menu, I'm okay with it.
No, and actually, it's, you know, that's just one example. So as we walked through, you know, all the hang-ups or the emotional scars, right, of the past, and I think this can be done. It's helpful. We're very lucky to have found each other and have a partner to help us, but it can be done with a good friend. It can be done with anybody that you trust to help you, to help anybody get through, you know, the past relationship trauma, past relationship mistakes, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just, you know, not allowing, I don't think either one of us will ever allow those types of issues to come up in our relationships moving forward. You know, even in friendships, just because we've learned what we don't want.
Right.
And anybody can do that. Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful the fact that, you know, we've had many, many talks about being this open, and we decided to share this today, that we're comfortable enough to share it because we want folks, I think, to feel like it's okay to be human and to make mistakes. There's no reason to ever be embarrassed about that.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It doesn't have to spill over into, you know, another relationship.
Right. Exactly. And it's, you know, it's part of the growth process, and it's perfectly okay. I think it's a more common problem than a lot of people are willing to talk about. And yeah, it's just about deciding when you've had enough and how you're going to change it.
And everybody has their own story, their own path to walk, and so
Yeah.
my thing is mine was unique, yours was unique, and I don't apologize or feel bad about the path I took, which was littered with a lot of mistakes on my part. And you know, I think.
Oh, me too.
Yes.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We all do.
So there's a quote that we wanted to end with that says, "You're responsible for how long you let what hurts you haunt you."
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So you're responsible how long that something hurts you to haunt you.
Right. That's cool.
I know. I like that.
I do too.
Sort of brings up Scrooge, the ghosts of Christmas past, right? Haunting you.
Haunting you. Yeah.
So, to lighten the mood here towards the end of our podcast, as always, I still have a few more Sandyisms in my pocket yes, that's not one of them, although she said bring it on. She whispered, bring it on.
Bring it on.
This one is an interesting one. And as usual, you just take a regular phrase and you make it your own. So it goes like this: if you ought to.
Oh, jeez.
What she's really saying is if you want to.
Where did that? I don't even know where that one came from.
So just out of left field in your
Yeah.
vocabulary.
Yeah.
If you ought to.
If you ought to. Yeah. I don't know where that came from.
It's just a very whimsical. Oh, can I go to the store? If you ought to. Again, from the mysterious and amazing mind of my partner, Sandy. Yet another Sandyism.
It's interesting to hear myself through you. I'll tell you that.
Yes. Well, I've always, from the very beginning, I'm like, I love that. That's
it's a
cool.
little disturbing how much you don't understand what I say, though.
Ongoing challenges.
Yes.
Ongoing challenges between us. Yeah, so we'll keep doing this podcast if you want to.
If you want to. Sounds like a Forrest Gump kind of thing, doesn't it?
It
yeah,
does.
It might be, actually. It actually might have come from there.
Oh my goodness. So, okay, you borrowed it from a movie. But before we wrap up, as usual, we want to thank you. We want to thank James for his comment on our YouTube channel for
introducing
us to hashtag relationship, hashtag, you know.
Yeah. It's something I've
couples.
seen and have thought about using, but really just didn't do it. So thank you, James. I love the idea, and I know you're right. So I appreciate the feedback for sure.
And keep the comments coming on YouTube or on our podcast, as we're still doing our podcast. And again, you can see our faces on the YouTube channel, hear our voices on the podcast channel, such as iTunes, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, Radio Public, Overcast, Castbox, the podcast app. And so we appreciate our listeners in podcast land, as well as those on our YouTube channel where you can subscribe. We're also on Soar and Pair in Facebook, where you can a day in the life of Jim and Sandy, and we plan to add other platforms, and we'll let you know when we do that.
Yes. And also, by the way, I am accepting appointments. If you would like to sign up for an appointment for energy healing, please reach out to me. Just DM me on Soar and Pair Facebook.
Very good. Well, there you have it.
Please remember to comment and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.
Bye.